the screen. Good evening, one and all. So welcome to the Business Growth Club, Tuesday the 3rd of November, with my business partner, Dr. Joe North. This is Mahmood Reza here. Tonight's session is going to be on how to make the best decisions for your business. Now, it's a very pertinent topic tonight, and it's not just a COVID-related topic. Obviously, COVID is focusing the mind. COVID is sharpening that outlook. We're in a bit of a turmoil. But in terms of what me and Joe are going to be discussing tonight, and we've got a wonderful guest coming on later on, it's something that's going to set your store, set a framework, blend it in with what's going on currently and beyond, and we think you can have a fantastic show. If you're joining us later, we forgive you. Catch us up on, put hashtag replay in there. We can pick up your comments. Questions, please fire as many questions at me and Joe as possible. We'll do our best to answer them immediately tonight. If for any reason you come on later on, we'll pick those up and we'll feedback on that accordingly. So I think it's only right and proper that we do something like start the show. So what I'm going to do with a bit of technology here, I'm going to find out what we're going to do here. We're going to have a nice little ticker tape showing.
Yeah, looking good, looking really good. And as you say, Mahmood, tonight's all about how to make the best decisions for your business. And we planned this a few weeks ago, didn't we? It was in the content. Yeah. The thing is that when we're in a time like we are right now, with everything that's going on and with what Boris has announced, and also, I know that we've got, it's lovely to have you people listening all over the world and watching all over the world as well. There are different lockdowns and different scenarios happening all over the world, and we wish everybody well. And I think all these business disciplines around decision making actually are the same, as they always were. It's just really amped up. It's about really, really focusing in and zooming in on, doing the best job we can with these skills and with these tools and techniques, really, and using them more than ever. Don't you think, Mahmood?
Oh, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Joe. So as Joe pointed out, we're practicing what we preach. So we actually planned what we're going to talk about. We had an outline. We're big fans of planning. We're big fans of agile planning. And I think in terms of what we're setting out as a framework here, it's for pretty much any sort of business decision that you're likely to encounter, whether that's pivoting, new products, whatever size your business is. So whether you're an acorn sized business just starting up, or you're a bit of an oak tree of a business expanding here, the framework we're going to give you tonight is very transferable, and it's a great piece to put in your business growth toolkit.
Yeah, and you're already great at making decisions, because you're making them every day in your business, everyone. We're all making loads and loads of decisions all the time. And I think it's really worthwhile just sort of stepping back and thinking about how we make those decisions. And what we're focusing on, particularly this evening, are the difficult decisions, the ones that aren't clear cut, the ones where there's no particular right or wrong answer. There's just a number of choices, and you're trying to work out which is the best way forward. And the thing to do is to start off by actually thinking about, well, what is stopping me from moving forward? Why haven't I made this decision already? And get down all the questions that you've got, because usually we're not moving forward because we've got some unanswered questions or some unanswered concerns or challenges. What if this happens? And how do I do that? So get all those down. And then once you've got your questions down, you can actually start to work through what some of the answers might be and start to find some of the data.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's two things to connect there brilliantly. So again, please don't rely just on your brain. Please don't rely on your instinct and your emotion and all the rest to drive the decision. That certainly might be a factor in that. But so do a brain dump and think of every conceivable question that you think you want answered. It may be that you sometimes kick some of those questions into touch, but you've got to really try and think about what's the answers that I'm looking for before you start doing those things like data gathering.
Yeah, definitely. And be aware of your own preferences as well, and think about this. So as we're talking through these, just have a listen in and think about which ones most apply to you. So we've got a preference, all of us, for either analytical decision making, which is where we need facts, figures, statistics, information, proof of something. And right at the other end of the continuum, we have people who have a huge intuitive preference for decision making. So it's how they feel about something. They're using sort of their intuitive senses. It's not woo-woo stuff. They're just sort of interpreting information from around the world and, you know, what they see and processing it differently. And sometimes we get people who are super analytical and super intuitive, and it can be anywhere in between. But the thing to do is, if you are super analytical, is to really think about the intuitive side and the judgment element as well. And if you're on the intuitive side, think about how you can use sort of data and evidence and analysis to help your decision making, because the magic happens is when you put the two together. And if you're not great at doing either one of those yourself, of course, you can, you know, work with somebody else or bounce things off somebody who has, you know, a contrasting approach to the one that you've got yourself.
Yeah, that's a great way. That's a great merging there, isn't it, Joe? Because one thing you've also got to be very careful when you go for data. It's quite possible to drown in data. It's quite possible to have so much data there you don't actually know what to do. There's an old management cliche about talking about analysis by paralysis, if I can say that correctly. So you don't want to be overwhelmed with the numbers, and you don't want to rely just on the numbers. And by numbers, by the way, it's not just financial data that we're looking at. We're looking at customer data, we're looking at employee data, we're looking at competitive data, a whole wide range of things that we're actually looking for. But as Joe said, you need to blend the two together. So if you don't have the skills, if you don't have that ability to think intuitively, to think creatively, then access support, mentors, obviously Business Growth Club I'm going to mention, obviously, but no one person is a polymath, can actually do everything there. Don't rely on your gut without having data, and don't rely on data without having some creativity that blends in.
Yeah, because that's the other thing about decision making is the past. As we've seen so much this year, the past isn't necessarily a predictor of the future. So any business decision requires a combination of analysis to see where things are going, and also a sense of judgment and intuition to work out where things are going to be in the future moving forward. We need both of those, and it's about making the best decision at any point with the information available. And look, there's no such thing as perfect data either, is there?
No, absolutely. I mean, you talk about that past, Joe. Sometimes, you know, we might have had a very good year, we might have had a very bad year. That's not necessarily mean it's going to repeat itself. So things don't always go in a linear fashion. And remember, you've got to look at the age of the data, how that data was collated. But some data, you know, if it's half decent, is better than nothing. Joe, we talked about at the beginning about lots of things that we can use decisions for. We've mentioned financial data, market data. I think when we were discussing this, what other sort of data do you think people should be looking for to collate and collect?
Yeah, I think it depends on the sort of decision that you're looking to make. But in general, I think the first bit of data is about tuning into how you're feeling. And the reason for that is because if we're feeling like super emotional, if there's a massive change going on and we're feeling very stressed about something, then that actually affects our decision making, because what happens is we have an amygdala hijack, which means that our basic brain takes over. We have a physical response to that, and it means that our thinking is blocked. We put our frontal lobes up and we don't access the wider information in our brains in the same sort of way when we're stressed. So actually start with how you're feeling, where are you at right now, and think, is this the best time to make this big decision, yes or no? If the answer is actually, yeah, I'm feeling pretty objective, I'm in a good place to make this decision, then the next thing to do is to look for the data that will answer the questions that you've just written down, all those things that are stopping you, all those things that you're concerned that you don't know, and think about how you could find the answers to those.
Yeah, for sure. And you're quite right. I mean, anxiety, feeling worried, feeling stressed is not a good position to be in to actually make any decision of any sort of meaning. So get yourself into a good space, whatever that takes, whether it's a dietary thing, an exercise thing, getting away from it for a while, but come back. And I think you need to be objective when you actually look at this, because you're going to be making decisions that can have a big impact on your business. So just make sure your mind is calibrated correctly.
Yeah, then get your questions down and then look for how you might be able to answer some of the questions that you set out for yourself. And of course, some questions you won't be able to find the answers to. And of course, we can't predict the future for sure, but that at least gives a start. And look for evidence, but also tune into what is your intuition, because, I mean, Mahmood, I'm sure you're the same. Every time in business or in life, actually, where I've not listened to what my instinct was telling me, I've regretted it later. So when I've post-rationalised something that I don't feel good about and sort of talked myself into it, I've always wished I hadn't done that thing in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, instinct does count for a lot, so we're not dismissing it. On the data, Joe, I know we both find this, that we're not talking about, there's a lot of data that actually floats around in your business currently. So always look at what you've got already. It may not be organized into a wonderful management system, but actually look at what you're doing at the moment. So, whether it's the transactions, things that you're doing, there's an amazing amount of data that you can collate about who your customers are, where they come from, what they're doing. So do some housekeeping and check what you've got already before you start going out and actually selecting and sourcing data from third parties.
Yeah, and make sure you've got the basics in place. We should all know how much it costs us to deliver our product or service. We should know what our average transaction value is. We should know where our profit comes from and the curve in terms of where most business comes from, which customers, which sectors, product, services, and all of those good things. So having a look at that and just stepping back and seeing all that data and looking at it fresh can give you some really good insight in terms of what to do next. And of course, there's also data outside your business as well. And there are some great tools. You can look at Google Trends. I was really enjoying actually looking into Google Trends the other day to see what people are searching for right now, how search terms have changed, and particularly over recent months, and you can find out which way things are going in your industry. So have a look at Google Trends and see what's going on, what people are looking for. I think Joe Dixon did very well from March onwards. Not sure how that'll go now as we're in the run up to Christmas.
Well, to be fair to Joe, I suppose just a slight diversion. He actually put the effort in before lockdown actually occurred, and his business was right for that, that situation that occurred. And you're right. I mean, the Google Trends is a brilliant thing. There's also your own website. There's also your own social media field. You're looking at your revenue, your costs. You can match that against all the different types of customers you've got. So it's amazing, actually, what lies within your business that gives you so much furtive information. I'm just going to.
Oh, I was just going to say, Mahmood, that we've talked a lot in these shows about how important it is to stay tuned into how customers' problems change, and that we're in business to solve customers' problems. But have a look and see maybe it's some Facebook groups where your customers hang out. See how what they're talking about is changing, and use the internet and social media to do that. So some of these things can be really very accessible and quick to do. And to be honest, we should be on that anyway. That should be part of what we're doing day to day in the business.
100% with you there, Joe. I'm just going to sort of pause for a second or two there, Joe. I've just got some comments coming in. I'm just going to flag up one from Nadine. And she's absolutely great point there. Big picture stuff. So obviously a lot of analytical stuff is great, but it's always the big picture you need to actually look at. So thank you for that point, Nadine.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you. Great to hear from you again. Yeah, it's great. So great comment and good to hear from you again. It's absolutely keep on the big picture. And when you're making the decision, it's one of the key questions is, will doing this next step take me to where I want to be? Is it in alignment with the goals that I've set for myself and the definition of success that I've created? Really important. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just going to, before we move on, Joe, I'm just going to share another comment from Nadine. She's talking about not using data from the past. I think you're right there, Nadine, in terms of not using it to predict, saying it's going to replicate that. But sometimes past data can help inform. There may be some nuggets of good information there, whether it's financial. There could be some good nuggets there in terms of how customers have actually engaged with you, where they come from. So it's not about a question of saying that the future will replicate the past, but if you've got some historic data, there might be still some value in looking at it. Yeah,
definitely. Great comments. Thank you.
Now, Joe, so we've got the questions that we want answered. We've got the data that we're going to collect from a variety of sources, some internally. We've got market data, customer data, financial data. And absolutely true, you've got to really get a grip with your numbers that underlie that as well. What's your thoughts then about how we get insight from that data?
Well, that's the important thing, isn't it? It goes from data to information to insight and then action. So insight is when we see meaningful things, when we get that meaningful information that can drive decision making, and that really varies from item to item. I think when Nadine was saying it's about stepping back and looking at the big picture, absolutely, for decision making that's key. And also step back and look at what the data overall is telling you, because data, and we don't just mean computer data, we don't just mean numbers data, it could be sentiment data, qualitative data, which means, just expressions of how people are feeling, that's all data. But put it all together. So use it in combination and then say, what picture am I getting from all this information in front of me? And what can I do with it? And by asking yourself that question, what can I do with this? What am I seeing? How can I use this to go forward? That will help you with the process of going from data to information to insight, for sure.
Yeah, and I think when you're drawing out those pictures, when you're looking at the data, remember some of us get blinded by numbers. So when we see numbers and raw data, it becomes very difficult to assimilate. So think about either presenting it visually on a graph, think about representing it visually and pictorially, whether you like bar charts, pie charts, whatever. Look for patterns, look for changes, look for, you're trying to interpret a story from that data there as well. So thinking about how you present that, and I think things like Excel, Google Sheets are very powerful tools here to actually get lots of raw data to actually make it a more easier thing to digest as well.
Yeah, and you can mind map it as well. So do something that works with your personal thinking preference and learning preference. And if the idea of actually putting something into a graph, really makes your toes curl, then don't worry about that. Just, you can draw things, you can mind map things, you can do things in different ways. It doesn't really matter as long as you've got a process of visualizing, assimilating the data, and making sure that you're working with it and you understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. There will be, as a computer mnemonic I got introduced to many years ago, this old mnemonic about GIGO, G-I-G-O, which stands for garbage in, garbage out. So when you actually do look at your data, do assess it about the quality of it, do assess it about the accuracy of it, do assess it, because poor data at the beginning can actually lead to poor information. So just treat it carefully as you sift through it.
Yeah, and some data is more important than other data. Be selective about what you use. It'd be super easy just to get overwhelmed with everything. And by doing that questions piece, what are the questions I need in order to make this decision? Then you're being selective about the data you're using and how to put it together. I think it's also important to listen to what you're telling yourself, how you're talking to yourself about the decision as well, because it's not all down to data, it's not all down to intuition. Sometimes it's down to courage, and courage/fear, of course, depending on which side of the coin we're on. So there's a decision that we know we need to make, or that we know is the best route for us deep down, but there's something stopping us, and often that is because we're frightened of making that decision. And we just have to, be really brave and create an environment that sets us up for success, so that we feel supported and that we know we've got, it's a brave step, but we're doing everything we can to be successful. Yeah.
I like that idea that you've articulated, that idea of courage. I'd probably say the same thing, but I'd actually also use the phraseology about risk appetite. So all of us in business have got different attitudes to risk. So if we think about our personal lives, some of us might be quite reckless with our money. If we've got spare cash, we might invest it on the stock market, bet it on the bookies, the gambling, or the lottery. That's fine for you if that's your risk appetite. Some people are more cautious. Yes, you've got to take a degree of risk in your business here, but the courage is going to be dictated by the level of risk that you're willing to actually undertake in your business. So yeah, I like the way you articulate that, Joe's courage. I'm going to be really tedious and boring and call it risk appetite.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two, isn't it? They're different concepts, but they're really close relatives. And I really like that you've brought risk in as well, because if you think about it, there are I know people who are lifelong civil servants, and they go and skydive whenever they go on holiday and do sort of adventurous things. And then I know, other entrepreneurs who wouldn't dream of doing such a thing, but who really push things financially in order to grow at what they're doing. So we can be really courageous in one area and not very courageous in another, really, up for risk at one thing and really risk averse in another as well. So it's important to get different opinions, but not too many opinions, and to get opinions from others whose point of view you really value.
For sure.
And put that through the filter and say, well, what's helpful to me, what isn't. But at the end of the day, it's down to you to make the decision. So
yeah, that's right. I mean, as business owners, we are the ultimate decision makers. We are the ultimate ones who are responsible for the decisions that we take. Before, I think we've got a special guest waiting for us, which I'm going to bring on in a few moments.
She's in the green room, isn't she? Is she enjoying the virtual hospitality, the virtual?
She's enjoying that, and I think she's also enjoying some of her own product. I'm not sure if there's an alcoholic first of that. We'll bring her on in a moment. I'm just going to share a comment from the Dean before we bring on Rachel. We will be up front. She's a member of the Business Growth Club, fantastic member as they all have been. We talked about data visualization, comparative tables, arrows and colours. That works for the Dean. I think that will work for a lot of other people as well. So however you represent that data, make sure it's something you can connect with.
Yeah.
Now, what can you say about Rachel, Joe, would you say?
Sorry?
Now, Rachel is just going to, in the green room, which you're going to bring her on here.
Yeah.
I think in terms of what we've talked about, that ability to articulate, that ability to have a clear vision has led to a number of great things in terms of branding, proposition. I think it's only fair at this stage that we bring her on. And
yeah, definitely. Also courage, creativity, and all of that. So I'm really excited to talk to Rachel. I've got a question I am absolutely dying to ask her that I've never asked her before.
Fair enough then. Okay, let's bring her on. And let's bring on our wonderful guest, Rachel. And
Hello.
Rachel, good evening.
Well, that was a heck of an intro. I don't know how to quite follow up on that, but I'm really glad to be here. It's great to see you both.
Thanks very much for sparing the time. So, Rachel, would you like to tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself? And I think Joe's dying to ask you a question, so I don't know what goes first.
Yeah, you tell us about you and what you do, and about your wonderful product, and then I'll ask my question.
Okay, I shall start, and then I'll be intrigued to answer your question, Joe. So I'm Rachel Clark. I run Nut and Noggin, and we are a plastic-free beauty and hair care brand. We started in 2019, and we're aiming to change lives one head at a time with our vegan hair care and beauty range that actually gives back with every sale. So we give back to mental health charities that help children and young people facing mental health challenges. So that's kind of Nut and Noggin in a nutshell, if you like. But Joe, what was your question?
I've got two questions now. Am I allowed to, Mahmood?
I think so. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, just doubled the number of questions. The first question is, I absolutely love the name Nut and Noggin. So how did you come up with it? What was the creative process behind coming up with it, and why did you choose and decide on it?
That's a good question. So, I mean, I've had a few other businesses before, and I've consulted with other business owners before on naming a brand, and it's always a really difficult thing to do, and also you don't want to get stuck on it, but obviously when it's your own brand, you want it to be right, and you want it to feel good, and you want it to do all the things that you need it to do, and to kind of convey joy and all the things that we wanted Nut and Noggin to do as well. So I came up with some really bad brand names which I would discuss at leisure with, anyone in the supermarket. I'd talk to people on the bus about them. And, I knew I wasn't on the right track when you just get a glazed over expression. I had this name, it was like Act of Hair. And that's actually what our limited company name is now. But people were like, what, do you go to the gym with it? I don't get it. What do you mean Act of Hair? So I was like, I don't think that's the name. So Nut and Noggin came about because we were talking about mental health, and obviously our first product was a shampoo bar, so it was all about the head. And I was thinking, well, what do we call the head in the UK? So Nut and Noggin came up from that, and that's kind of the creative process.
Yeah,
as it went.
it's beautifully distinctive and alliterative and all of those good things. I think it's much better than Active Hair.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those names where you sort of say it and people kind of go, and then they go, oh, I love the name, you know, because you can see they're processing what that is, you know, what that looks like. But and it's always something that gets people talking.
You've got some behind you. I'm just pointing down.
I have, yes, I have. I've got some here, actually.
Have you? Let's do a product shot to camera.
Here's our shampoo bar packaging, and there's the shampoo bar. It's very big. It lasts a long time, 60 to 80 washes, twice as long as a plastic bottle. And then we've just recently launched the soap as well, with Joe and Mamu's help with the Business Growth Club. so yeah, that's going really well. So we've got 2 products now, and we've just recently launched a gift set as well for Christmas. So yeah, it's been a busy year.
It's been a busy year, Rachel, but I think you're underselling yourself here, because I believe you've got some good distribution networks already organised. Yeah,
well, I mean, when we first set out, it was very much, I wanted it to be an e-commerce brand, like a direct-to-consumer offering. Little did I know how much work that would actually be, looking back. But actually, we started out and we got quite a lot of press. My background's actually in PR, so that was very much a focus of the marketing plan, because I didn't have much budget to spend on ads and things. So I focused on getting media coverage and getting beauty editors to try the product and review it. And so early on, we got coverage in things like Grazia magazine and Elle magazine and Vogue, and just dream coverage that I could never have probably got for a client beforehand. But it's amazing what you do when you're on your own. And that really helped approach the buyers at the likes of Selfridges, where we've now got a listing. And we're also in discussions with other major retailers as well. So yeah, it's been a heck of a year.
Yeah, you must be super proud, you know, because it's a cracking product. I'm not sure Mahmood uses it quite as often as I do, but
much these days, actually, Joe. Yeah.
Me and my daughter absolutely love it. And I think when we first met, Rachel, I bought one months and months ago, and only just had to get another one. And it's really no nasties, really fantastic. And so many more questions now. Why did you choose to go from your PR, and I know you're a social media expert as well, so why did you choose to go from that into doing this? What drove that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I did PR and social media and, you know, consultancy for about 20 years. So it's something I've always loved doing. I've worked on consumer brands. I've worked on some beauty brands. I've worked in the property industry. So I've done a bit of all sorts. And then I actually lost my father about 5 years ago. And it's just one of those moments where you kind of rethink everything. You think, well, what am I actually doing this for? Obviously, you want to do something that is in total alignment with who you want to be in the world and how you want to show up. And that was really the kind of turning point to thinking, right, I actually want to do something like Nut and Noggin, where I could give back and put all my other skills to use and learn other things. So it's been the learning curve has just been so steep. It's just been like that. And I love that kind of analogy of, success being not a linear line, but it's like a massive squiggle and you go in all sorts of directions before you actually get there. And that's very much what this year's been about. It's been, a roller coaster, but it's just been the most incredible experience. So it's one of those things where you kind of look back and you think, yeah, I'm so pleased I've changed course.
So what's been your biggest, let's go for one of each, and what's been your biggest challenge this year, as well as one of your biggest highs?
Wow. Let's see. I think the biggest challenge is very much, when it's all an idea in your head and you're kind of trying to plan out this concept, this business that you think could work, but you're not quite sure. And you actually don't know until you get your first sale. So I think the biggest challenge is what Joe was talking about before. It's having the courage to just go with your gut feel as well as the data that you're seeing. And you talked about Google Trends, Joe. That was something that I used, to look into what types of beauty trends were coming through and what I felt intuitively would be something that I would buy into. So this really started from personal frustration that I couldn't find a shampoo bar that actually didn't leave me with scarecrow hair. And so that would be, I guess that would be the biggest challenge, but also once it starts working and once you start getting momentum, that's the real kind of payback, is that you're seeing everything that you've thought through and planned out kind of come to fruition. And that's been incredible.
Just carry on, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously, getting into Selfridges, it's, my favorite shop in the world, and it's a lot of other people's favorite shop in the world. So that was a massive high and just a huge sort of stamp of approval from externally, I guess.
Yeah.
Just to kind of...
Congratulations, because nobody deserves that level of success more than you do with the hard work and the creativity, and the courage that you've put in. You're doing an incredible job. I know you're on the trajectory. You've got your, a second product out, and that was a decision as well in itself, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of, you think you've done the hard bit, and then you realise, oh my God, there's some other stuff we've got to do.
Yeah, it's keeping at it, isn't it? It's keeping at and getting it started. I think once you've been through the process once, perhaps with the shampoo bar, that might have accelerated the process with the soap. Was it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's much more of a, it's all these unknowns that, I'd never launched a product before. I'd spoken to, national news journalists about products, but I'd never launched my own. And so it's just knowing the process that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So once you're open to that learning and open to that experience of feeling uncomfortable every other day or every day, then that's really where the growth comes, I think, and just managing your mindset through that as well. That's been key.
Now, you mentioned growth there, Rachel. So I'm going to ask you then, what was it that sort of inspired you, tempted you to join the Growth Club in the first place?
Well, it was great timing, actually, Mahmood. I sort of came across, I was doing some training with Jo earlier, and I thought she was obviously great, because she is. And then it was just at a time where I could see the business where it could go, but I wasn't sure I was had the organisation to kind of plan it out and get it there in that transition phase. So I just really wanted that kind of accountability, as well as, the expertise that the Growth Club provided, which was second to none. And I've done lots of training. It was just a great time for the business and for me to kind of get involved, which is why I made the choice to do it.
Thank you. We love working with you, and I think it's been wonderful as well how all of the Business Growth Club members, you've all supported each other brilliantly, and I know you've been really supportive of others too in there, which is fantastic. So thank you for that.
It's a pleasure.
And did you feel that you thought you got clarity on the next phases and where you're going with growth, and what does the future like? What hopes do you have for the future?
Yeah, I mean, the Growth Club, I mean, not to oversell it, but it's so well organised. And I feel like you guys have obviously done the training so many times. You've learnt from the kind of feedback that you've got. But for business owners, it's so well laid out and so easy to implement. And it's all the things we all know as business owners we should be doing, but it just never gets done because you never have that organisation of each week meeting up with the other team members and you guys kind of helping us through it. So yeah, it was totally invaluable for Noggin, I would say. Just at the right time as well. And yeah, so growth plans are just kind of, the sky's the limit for next year. We were expecting a really busy Q4 because of the e-commerce side of the business. And it's just kind of managing through that in terms of staffing. And then looking forward into 2021 just to grow the customer base.
So it's amazing because you've gone from a reflective period following the sad demise of your dad. You've gone to start a new business, so that's a new chapter in your life there. Products as many of them fail as they do succeed. You brought that. You've got some great distribution, got some great PR. I think Joe mentioned it, and it has to be said that success is not purely by accident. You've actually worked very hard. You've applied yourself, and you're going forward here. Now, you've not been put off. I've noticed that sort of personal resilience in you. What would you sort of say to business owners out there who might be feeling a little bit despondent because of what they see, round the corner? What would your advice to them be?
Obviously, we were just discussing earlier, but it's a really difficult time, and for some people, it's going to have to take a massive, change in what they're doing and change in direction, and even just being quite open-minded at the moment. I think we've got to be good to ourselves in terms of riding the wave a bit, because there's so many businesses that have either been stopped or halted, or I've got family members who are all in those positions, and it's a really difficult time. But I think in terms of resilience, there's always changes in industry and in business. And I could see things changing in my business, even in PR, going towards digital expertise and things kind of just changing so rapidly. So I think it's just being open to learn new things. I think that's really important at the moment. And just also being just really good to yourself. Don't, blame yourself for what's going on. It's more of a case of kind of riding the wave and getting through it.
Oh, great.
And also, obviously calling on people and other contacts that you can chat to, because everyone's kind of facing the same. Everyone is one of those rare things in the world where everyone's facing the same thing, that external.
There's that shared experience, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we've all got to support each other, really. And I love the fact you said about always learning. And I also love the fact that you actually attended and contributed to the marketing week and did your homework for marketing and you're such an expert.
Well, I mean, it was new to me, Joe. I probably thought, oh God, I should have been telling other people that. No.
Yeah, it's always good to see.
There's always something to learn. That's why I love what we do.
Yeah.
So
love that. And I think also, I'm sure people are intrigued by two things. I'm having far more questions than my quotients.
We're generous on this show, Joe.
So how do you get into, I'll get a few of them out of the way, and then how do you get into big publications like the ones you got into? How do you get fantastic clients like Selfridges when you're a relatively new business, and you're a small business as well? And what advice do you have for anyone who's really looking to create a fantastic brand on social media? Because your branding and how you position it all is gorgeous, and really,
thanks, Dave.
really, yeah, it makes
God, that's three big questions. Okay, now I think I can answer the first two quite simply. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm sure you both do as well. And I distinctly remember, like they say, there's a saying where, when you're ready, things will come to you. I don't know if you've heard that saying, but I kind of believe that. So I was listening to a podcast one day, and it was actually a brand owner who was advising other businesses how to approach retailers and how to, package your brand for retail. And she literally gave like a step-by-step, right, do your email, get some press coverage, put the coverage in the email, this is what you say in your email, this is why you say we're good for your customers. And I did that, step by step, and sent it to Selfridges. And they came back to me a month later, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my goodness, it actually worked. So it's sometimes thinking big as well, even though you might be small or you might be on your own, it's more, where could it go? And I think it's easy to kind of think small when actually those brands might be looking for something that's more sustainable, or, their customers are asking them for more sustainable brands, which I know is happening at the moment. And it's, if you've got courage in your conviction, then why shouldn't a smaller brand go and ask those people for at least some feedback?
You're right. I think a lot of what small businesses can contribute to bigger businesses is a level, depending on the product, service, and the brand, is a level of call, a level of relevance, ingenuity, speed. So there's lots and lots of innovation, all of those things that small business can bring that larger business.
That we can move faster almost because there's nothing to lose. So it's one of those, that was very much how we approached that kind of challenge in the business. And it was kind of, oh my God, I mean, they didn't know me from Adam, but they did know Grazia, and obviously their customers know Grazia and they know those other publications. So it's that really massively helped. And how did we get into those publications? So how would someone go about, targeting a national either newspaper or magazine or, wherever suits your target audience? It could be an industry magazine because sometimes that would actually get you more business than a national. But it's really just about thinking what's newsworthy about your brand or your product or your business. So it might be that you're the story. So you might have an interesting background, or it might be that you're a startup and you've got interesting things to say about even business at the moment. People are looking for quotes all the time. So it's just about kind of getting in touch with your local journalists, your business journalists, and kind of introducing yourself really, and just saying, if you're ever looking for stories around what we do, then please give us a ring for some comment, and just not being frightened of it, because other businesses do exactly that, and that's how they get the press coverage.
Yeah, great advice. Really good. Yeah.
Sorry, Joe, you go first.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and also being aware that the planning cycle is often a little, quite ahead of where we are right now. So it's thinking now probably what, January, February, March, probably even onwards.
Absolutely. If it was a consumer magazine, that would definitely be the case. I mean, but local news is going every day, and they're looking for stories about local people, about local places and businesses. So, and also at the moment, people would relish a good news story. So I just wouldn't be afraid to go forward and just kind of get in touch with them.
Yeah, you're right there. I mean, as long as it's a story and not just a straight advert for your product, I think.
Yeah.
What I imagine with Selfridges, you've actually helped out their procurement department as well. You've actually done the business case, partly some of the legwork for them. You've shown them there is a concept. You've shown them that customers engage with the product. You've shown them that there's actually a value of them looking forward. So I think you've actually put yourself in the shoes of the Selfridges procurement department and actually done a lot of good work for them as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, really great feedback from them directly from the procurement team. So it's something that they're, obviously they're doing a huge sustainability push at the moment as well. So it just so happened that Noggin would fit into Project Earth, as it's called. So yeah, we're thrilled.
Yes. So you've helped Selfridges make their decision as well, because you're aligned and you've done a lot of the work. One thing I do want to point out is that Rachel, not only has she got this beautiful brand and the packaging is gorgeous, it feels good, the product itself is awesome, but Rachel also works with her numbers. So KPIs, forecasting, doing all that serious stuff. There are lots of things out there that go, oh, this is how you build a brand, this is how you build a personal brand, here's how you do social media. But actually building a real business, and a business that gets results and the growth that Rachel's seeing, it needs all of that. It also needs the nitty-gritty of numbers, forecasting, targets, accountability, scenario planning, product range extension, and all of those things. And you're really thorough and committed on all of those fronts.
I'm so pleased to pull that up, Joe, because I mean, if you'd asked me a year ago, I'd have just freaked out about numbers, because I'm not naturally a numbers person. I've always done business plans and things like that, but it's not my natural territory, let's say. But having gone through, everything from cash flows with Mahmood and, forecasting, and just having gone through that process for the business, it's just been so good at helping with clarity, and also just actually being a lot less stressful when numbers come up, because obviously they're the kind of where you should be looking most days. But yeah, it used to be a source of stress, and now it's actually a source of, oh well, that's not quite figuring out the way we thought it would. So let's try, like you said earlier about profitability and where your profit's actually coming from. Now we've got light on those places where before I just didn't have that at all. So yeah, numbers.
Well done. And I think, really, really great, because numbers are a source of data and insight and intelligence. What I will say is Mahmood makes it so easy and straightforward and accessible. And and he's been doing a fantastic job as always. I think, keeping us posted of this changing situation and working incredibly hard. I saw you on Saturday and Sunday, and I think later on tonight you're doing a sterling job of keeping us updated with what the Treasury is saying, Mahmood.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rachel. Well, it's Rishi Sunak. I think he's listening to my broadcast and changing the rules. Do that. But I think my hat goes off to you, as Joe said there, Rachel. You didn't shy away from them. You got to grips with it, and I think that's for me. It's those numbers bit that actually tell the story, don't they? Albeit in a figurative way. You're a PR background. You're good at storytelling and all the rest of it. And I defy anyone to think of any successful business that doesn't blend the two, the creativity, as Joe intimated earlier on, with the actual hardcore business systems, numbers and process. It's the two together, that's going to help you continue with your success.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, so that's a great way to explain it. It's like you can't have one without the other. And it's just so nice now to be able to talk through my numbers without stressing out and breaking into a sweat.
Yeah, feels good, doesn't it? Feels good. I think a lot of fear around numbers is because people don't really know where they stand, so they worry about where they stand, so they don't look at it. And
exactly. That was me. That was absolutely me. So yeah, I'm feeling very, very calm about it now, which is good.
And just before we wrap this up, how are you feeling about the coming few months of next year?
Well, I mean, because we're mainly on e-commerce business, so Q4 is, I think, expected to be like $1 trillion Q4 this year, including the States.
That's overall, isn't it? That's just not noggin. Okay.
That is not just noggin, no. With my 3 customers, no. Yeah. So that's like everything. That's Amazon. That's absolutely every e-commerce platform across the world. But it's still expected to be a record year. Obviously, the poor high street retailers are having to close this Thursday. So that has a massive implication on both, obviously, our high street retailers and also our smaller gift shop retailers. So yeah, we're not going to be seeing business from that. But yeah, we're expecting Q4 to be busy, and into next year, everything turns to January self-care. We're expecting kind of beauty to be one of the categories that keeps performing quite well. So fingers crossed, and we'll get there.
Yeah, I can remember the no poo or low poo trend as well through the first lockdown, where people actually use that to detox hair and use a great product like yours. So I think what we ought to do, Rachel, is put you on the spot a little bit. Show us the product again and tell us how we can buy it, and particularly your Christmas gift packs and all of that.
Oh my God! Okay, right. Well, that's a good question. So here's Nut and Noggin's shampoo bar,
beautifully shown,
and our rhubarb and ginger soap. And you can go to nutandnoggin.com, nutandnoggin.com, and we're on social media at nutandnoggin. So please give us a follow. And we've just launched our gift sets as well for Christmas, so you can get on the website to pre-order those.
And that's got the shampoo bar and the soaps in.
It does indeed, yes.
Yeah. I'm dropping hints about mine.
You're very good, Jo. Thank you.
Hints. Never too early to drop hints.
Jo is one of our favourite customers.
I think there's a future on QVC as well, if you don't mind.
Wow. That's a big call, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd like to get some more orders in.
Yes, we'll help with that. Okay. Thank you very much for being here this evening and sharing your story.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Awesome.
Listen, I have just, again, as Joe said, thank you very much for appearing tonight, giving up some time. I think it's a great story. We could be here till midnight, talking to you, but unfortunately, we can't be. So just say delightful.
Do that.
put you on here tonight, Rachel.
Sorry, Mahmood, I just missed that.
No, I said just delighted to have you here tonight.
Oh, it's great to see you both. It's great to be here, and thanks so much for your time, and thanks everyone for listening. I hope you've found some value in it.
Thank you very much, Rachel. There's loads of value. I always learn loads from you every time we speak.
Likewise.
Hopefully, we're planning a Business Growth Club Christmas reunion. So,
I love the sound of that. Definitely.
Yeah, virtually, of course, but yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
Have
a great evening.
Okay, have a good evening, Rachel. So, Joe, what a fantastic guest, as we've had all our guests so far. So, I suppose in terms of, probably be time to tell people about what's coming up next week.
So, what's coming up next week, Mahmood?
Well, we've got another break. This is a regular thing, by the way, everybody. So, you're stuck with us, broadcasting on a Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. If you're coming on replay, as we said, put hashtag replay in there. If you want to comment or put your contact in the comments box, we're going to add you to a waiting list if you wish to. We've got a new Growth Club. I don't think we've actually fixed this specific date, but we're talking about January 21. Joe's looking at me thinking, yes, we have, Mahmood. You should have made a note in your diary. So January 21, we're launching the second Business Growth Club. We'd love you to be a part of that. We have a sharing list in terms of where we can add you to that, and we can give you lots of tips coming straight into your inbox. Really thank you for your company tonight. Joe, what are we going to be talking about next week?
Yeah, so we've got a few special guests lined up, haven't we? So you're head of special guest programming, so I'll actually flip that one back if that's all right.
Okay, we're competing with two guests at the moment here. So they're all previous Business Growth Club members. I believe Beverly is going to be joining us next week. We will be distributing details of that via our normal channels. Where are we today? By the end of this week here, so give you those details. We'd love you to join in. If you've got any comments, if you want to be part of our sharing list and participate in this wonderful journey that we're doing, we'd love you to do that. So for myself, it's good night from me. And
it's good night from me. Is that right? It's good night.
I think it's like the old two Ronnies here, but Mahmood and Joe show. So listen, folks, thank you very much for your company tonight. We look forward to speaking to you guys on the show next Tuesday.
Thanks for watching. See you soon.
Take care. Bye.